Hallucinations, which is something that a lot of us have heard about, especially in terms of people with schizophrenia spectrum disorders like schizoaffective disorder, which is a disorder I have. It means that I experience symptoms of schizophrenia, such as delusions and hallucinations, but also symptoms of a mood disorder such as bipolar or major depression. For me, I suffer with bipolar disorder. Of course, you don't have to have a psychiatric condition in order to hallucinate, because things like drug use, alcohol use, and sleep deprivation can actually cause hallucinations in otherwise normal people. And hallucinations can be good or bad. They can be fun or not so fun, good or not so good. It just depends on the person. Me personally, the vast majority of mine are kind of okay, but some of them are downright horrifying, and so this video, I'm gonna talk about one of the scary ones. And it's kind of weird too. And there are many different categories of hallucinations. Often they affect one of the 5 senses. So the most common hallucination is hearing voices or seeing people that aren't there. And you can even taste or smell things that aren't there. But there's a certain kind of hallucination that goes somewhat beyond sensory awareness. And this is the one that I get. I'm talking about extracampine hallucinations, and this type of hallucination is usually found in people with later stages of Lewy bodies dementia, which is a brain disorder that affects older people. So I guess I'm lucky to experience it at 27. But an extracampine hallucination is basically when you have this sensation that there's a neutral human presence nearby. You can't physically see anyone, and you don't hear anything, but you just get this vague sense that someone is near. And this is where story time comes into play, because that sounds super weird, right? Okay, let me explain how it actually happens in real life. A lot of my experiences with this kind of hallucination happened before I went on Zyprexa, which is an antipsychotic medication. Naturally, because it was a hallucination, it mostly went away with meds. I was living in New York at the time in this shoebox of a room that was about as big as a parking space. It was late after midnight and all of my roommates had gone to sleep, but I was awake because I was pretty manic at the time. So without warning, I get this sinking feeling that I'm not alone, that there is someone in the room with me. And you might be thinking, that's terrifying. And yes it was. And the sensation I was getting was that this thing was behind me. So of course I turned around and there was nobody there. I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything. There wasn't anything there. And then I turned back around and the feeling would intensify again. And the thing is, there wasn't like any indication of gender. There wasn't any communication with it. It was just someone standing behind me watching what I'm doing. But when I turn around, there's no one there. And I even said, go away, leave me alone, the typical stuff that you do when you interact with a hallucination that you don't want there. Some people call it a vivid physical awareness. But this thing is there. There's someone behind me. I was absolutely sure there was. And this is a prime example of how psychosis messes with your reality. And no matter how many times I've hallucinated things in the past, everything when it happens is still very, very real. I interact with my voices like they're real people. And if someone's seeing someone that's not there and talking to them, that's still very real for them. And that's the thing about hallucinations, is they are extremely real when they happen. It's like trying to tell someone the sky's not blue. If they're looking at someone who's talking to them, that is so real to them. Like, I can talk myself out of thinking that the voices in my head are like real. Like, I'd be like, okay, they are hallucinations. I know I'm hallucinating right now, but they're still real to me. I still interact with them. It's still real in the moment. Anyways, back to the story. So I probably turned around and then turned back around 4 more times, only to continue to stare at empty space. It was absolutely maddening. And the thing is, I walked around the room, and whenever I turned like away from it, I would feel that intense feeling of being watched, etc. And the thing didn't necessarily move. Like, it remained in the spot that was behind me when I was at my desk. But the thing is, if I turned my back to it, even if I was in another part of the room, I'd still feel like I was being watched. And even when I was staring at empty space, I had this vague feeling that I'm like, oh, this is where this thing is. Why can't I see it? And so eventually the thing would leave, I guess. The feeling would vanish. The only hallucinations I'd be left with were the voices that had been in my head for 10 years. So this would continue to happen for 2 or 3 more days afterwards. And every time it happened after that, it was a little bit less terrifying. To the point now, when I have this weird type of hallucination, I just kind of sit there and go, yeah, there's someone there. I don't know what they're doing. They're still neutral and not doing anything. They don't even talk to me. They just stand there and watch me. And I just let it do its thing, and then eventually it goes away, which is really the nature of all of my hallucinations while being on antipsychotic medication, is that they all pop back up and then they go away. So even when my bad hallucinations show up, they do eventually leave, which is a nice security to have. And that's my weirdest hallucination. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have a weird hallucination or someone you know has a weird one, feel free to share it in the comment section down below. I'm always curious to hear how other people deal with their personal brand of psychosis. But other than that, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.